Another point that might help is that the enemy cannot pluck you from the Father's hands. He does not hold the power. But I've once heard someone say that once we've been set free from the bondage and chains of sin, the enemy does not have the power to put those chains back on you. But what the enemy can do is influence you and deceive you into putting those chains back onto yourself. And this goes hand in hand with 1 Thessalonians 3:5, where we see the Apostle Paul writes to this church because in that moment they started to go through some severe persecution, and Paul was afraid that they would depart from the faith, so much so that he sent his spiritual son Timothy to check up on them because they don't have cell phones at that time. And this is what verse 5 says: "For this reason, when I could bear it no longer, I sent to learn about your faith, for fear that somehow the tempter had tempted you and our labor would be in vain." You see, it's not that the enemy can pluck you from the Father's hands, but what he can do is tempt you to depart from the faith. Like in that context, that church was enduring persecution. All they had to do was to renounce Jesus and they would no longer go through persecution. And that's what the enemy was telling them. He was tempting them to depart from the faith. That's why Paul says, "I was afraid that the tempter tempted you and that our labor would be in vain." He literally planted a church where many people came and were repented. They put the trust in Jesus and they were baptized. And he was afraid that because of persecution, the enemy would use that and that his labor would be in vain. So again, no one can pluck you from the Father's hands, but what can happen is the enemy can deceive you to depart from your faith, to allow sin back into your life, that it will harden your heart to the point that it can cause the Father to cut you off from salvation. Let me know in the comment section, what are your thoughts? Let me hear it.